Well, it's official. Or at least as official as you can get before shovels actually hit the dirt. The Oakland A's are moving to Las Vegas. And after countless years of ownership disrespecting the fans there, this right here is the final blow. And sadly, this is just more of the same for the residents of Oakland. Their Warriors moving across the bay to San Francisco a couple of years prior, and the Raiders moving to Vegas themselves. The city welcomed the A's with open arms when they moved there in 1968, calling the Bay Area home for the past 54 years. And now, as estimated, 2028, they'll be playing on the Strip of Las Vegas. There is so much to talk about as to why this decision has been made and why I think it is nothing short of an absolute embarrassment to Major League Baseball and the loyal fans of Oakland, California. So let's break it down and see how this once powerhouse of a franchise has collapsed. The Athletics, formerly of Philadelphia and later Kansas City, came to Oakland in the 1960s. And it didn't take them long to have success there. 1972, 1973, and 1974, back-to-back-to-back World Series wins. And they'd win another one, 1989. But after that, into the 90s, up until present day, the A's can really be summed up as simply as Moneyball and missed opportunities. And I think we all know the story. The 2002 A's were very good, 100-plus game winners in the regular season. But they still came up short in October, losing in the first round. In fact, Oakland has won just a single playoff series since 2006, that being the 2020 wildcard round against Chicago. But even still, Oakland has made the postseason 11 times since the turn of the century. That puts them right up near top of Major League Baseball in making the playoffs. Yet, they're still having to leave. So let's talk about why. The first thing that people would point to is the stadium. The O.Co., the Network Associates Coliseum, the Ring Central Coliseum, the McAfee Coliseum. It's gone through so many sponsorships at this point, I'm half convinced they just pull one out of a hat at the beginning of each season. To put it lightly, the stadium has seen better days. And that's what people were saying almost 25 years ago. The Coliseum was originally built in 1966, and basically since the beginning of the 21st century, ownership for the A's has been looking to build a new park. And after more than 2 decades of meetings and negotiating with city officials of Oakland, trying to find a new plot of land, trying to find funding for the new park, the A's owner John Fisher and team president Dave Gavall basically said, screw it, let's go to Vegas. But certainly the biggest reason that most people can come to for leaving Oakland is fan attendance. Typically, if your team makes the postseason, you're going to receive pretty good ticket sales. But as you can see from the chart that I put together here, it doesn't really matter if the team is great, pretty good, or downright bad. Since the end of COVID, Oakland is ranked last, and second to last in fan attendance, and they failed to come up any higher than 23rd in the league since 2005. So in most cases, you look at this, a winning-ish team that nobody comes to see. Well, the area just must not care about baseball. No wonder they're leaving. However, as a lot of people watching this probably know, that isn't exactly the situation going on in Oakland. Let's play a game here. We mentioned the last time the Oakland A's were a top 20 team in fan attendance was in 2005. And the A's have just won a single playoff series since 2006. Now, would you care to take a guess when current owner John Fisher bought the team? Remember that name. We'll be talking about it quite a bit here. Because it is payroll time. The biggest reason for fan attendance dropping so low is pretty clear. The team does not spend for the product on their field, then how can you expect the fans to pay to watch that product? This, however, did not begin with John Fisher. That was really the culture of the Oakland Athletics by the time he got there. It all really begins in 1995. That's when their owner, Walter Haas, sadly passed away. The team was then purchased by Steven Schott and Ken Hoffman, and immediately they made it clear that they want the payroll reduced considerably. And that is precisely what GM Sandy Alderson did. In 1995, the A's had the 9th highest payroll. In 1996, under new ownership, they had the 26th highest payroll. A couple years later is when Billy Beane took over in the GM chair, and he continued that right on. Of course, with the Moneyball moniker, favoring analytics and guys who can come in and do the job for as cheap as possible. It was made pretty famous. Hell, they made a movie and got Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill to star in it. And that 2002 team made for a very good film, if you can remove the context. They talk a bunch about Scott Hatteberg, David Justice, Jeremy Giambi, but they do fail to mention the 28-year-old MVP who's still making just $3 million of arbitration money. 24-year-old Eric Chavez also doesn't get too much mention. And it's been a couple years since I watched the movie, but I can't recall Tim Hudson, Barry Zito, or Mark Mulder being mentioned even once. Yes, the players that Billy Beane brought in did help the team, but they were as good as they are because they had loads of young talent who didn't make much money because they couldn't. They were too young. And now that years have passed, the hype has gone down. The sole Moneyball approach that the A's and other ball clubs across baseball have employed has received a lot of criticism. Because in reality, Moneyball is a wheel. You get your couple good young stars. You have good success winning regular season games, making the playoffs, just to ultimately get beat by the teams that also have good young stars, but fill in the gaps by forking over some money. Then the Moneyball team's young stars get older, they start to approach free agency, and to avoid paying them, because the payroll has to be as little as possible, they trade them for more prospects that they can only hope become good players, finish towards the bottom of the division for a couple of years, and restart the wheel all over again. Here is a complete chart since 1985 when payroll information became reliably available, and you notice across all three owners they've had in that time the different approaches to payroll, and maybe you also notice the only approach that actually won Oakland anything. So, getting back to the fan attendance issue and how that correlates with a low payroll. The best way that I can describe and compare what Moneyball does to a franchise is really the reason why some people choose not to watch college sports. College basketball, for example. The best players are here and gone in 1 year's time. Even football. Most of the top players are pretty much gone after 2 or 3 seasons. And to me, that perfectly replicates what it's like being a fan of the Oakland A's. It's very difficult to get invested in the team when the roster is constantly changing. You can't build any fan favorites because once you do, they get traded. And a couple of things now that we have to address. No, Oakland is not as big of a market as New York City or Los Angeles. Therefore, I don't think anybody should expect them to spend like the Yankees and Mets or the Dodgers and Angels. But there's no reason why fans can't expect them to actually try. It's not like they don't have help. MLB's revenue sharing brings them in a lot of money each year. The Oakland A's, as well as the other 29 teams in the league, all receive an equal share of the national TV deal that MLB has, which in 2022 equated to about $60 million per team. There's also the general revenue sharing, where every team in baseball pools together 48% of their revenue for the year, and it's equally distributed amongst every team. You've got local television deals, you've got sponsorships, and a multi-billion-dollar owner, and there is no excuse to be fielding this kind of team year in and year out. And I want to talk about the Padres because they are a spitting image of everything the Oakland A's should be. San Diego was kind of stuck around 20th in fan attendance for the longest time. Then all of a sudden, they started to spend money. They had good young talent, and they supported that talent by bringing in more. And now all of a sudden, the Padres are one of the best teams in terms of fans filling out the ballpark. The blueprint is right out there for them. If you want to build that connection, if you want the fans to reinvest back into your team, to bring up revenue, the only way that's going to happen is by John Fisher making an actual honest effort. And I think you just have to hope that he's going to change his mind with the relocation to Las Vegas. And I am a bit concerned about the move too. Vegas isn't exactly a bigger market than the Oakland Bay area that the A's currently reside in. Vegas, when it comes down to it, is a huge tourism spot. Rest assured, fan attendance will be up from Oakland. I wouldn't expect it to rank top 5 in attendance or anything, but it should be a significant increase. I mean, it better be. Fisher, Caval, and the A's were able to secure $380 million of public funding from the city of Las Vegas in order to help construct the ballpark. So regardless of the on-field talent, there should at least be some entertaining things to do while you're there. But how many of the people there are even going to be Athletic fans? And sadly, I don't think ownership really cares. As long as they see even a couple more dollar signs rolling in, the move would be well worth it to them. Kind of to go without saying, they have dramatically severed ties with a lot of fans there in Oakland. And with that, how many of those fans are willing to let their fandom travel 550 miles across state into Las Vegas? Above all else, I truly feel awful for the fans in Oakland. It's easy to cast upon judgment, but if you understand what's going on and what they've had to endure with that ownership, not just recently, but for decades, it becomes very clear that the fault is not on their hands. For years and years, A's fans begged and pleaded for a new ballpark, and ironically enough, they're getting it. Probably for the first time in John Fisher's ownership with the A's, he's actually giving the fans what they asked for, just with his own special twist, a kick in the ass on the way out the door and on to Las Vegas.